And the problem with a lot of people is we got a love deficit. You know what a deficit is? It's when you're in the red. And when you got a love deficit, you can't serve with the right attitude. When you got a love deficit. You see, when you don't have enough love, every time you do something, you're looking for a return on your investment. What am I going to get out of it? What you're going to get out of it is a chance to serve. That's what you're going to get out of it. And so many of us, we got to calculate. What am I going to get out of it? We got to do a risk assessment. We got to figure out what's the return, what's the investment, and is the return worth the risk? You got a love deficit when you keep looking on a return for the investment. You got a love deficit when everything is a quid pro quo. You know, that's some of that fancy language. I just thought I'd show you I've been to school. So that means this for that. That's what it means. I do this for you. You do that for me. I scratch your back, you scratch my back. I give you this, you give me that. I buy a ticket from you, you gonna buy a ticket from me. Sound familiar? And some of us, we're not gonna do very much unless it's a quid pro quo. I'll do it if I do for you if you're gonna do for me. And whether I say it or whether I assume it, you know the game. You know the game. And then I get an attitude because I did for you. And then when I called you, you didn't answer. When you play that game, you got a love deficit. Some of us, we can't do anything unless it's a win-win proposition. You know, Stephen Covey, who wrote the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I mean, he got a whole industry of it. And one of his habits that he says is you always play for win-win or no gain. That's what he teaches people. And churches do leadership development using Stephen Covey stuff. Some of it's pretty good, but not that one. Now, if you're doing a business deal, you ought to go win-win. But when it comes to living for Jesus, you don't try to cut a win-win deal. You got a love deficit if you can only deal with a win-win proposition. Somebody's sitting here thinking, preacher, what are you asking us to do? I'm asking you to wash the feet. Out of love. See, when you got a love surplus, you don't have to keep looking for what you're getting out of it. Because I'm already full. See, I'm not empty. I'm full. And I don't have to try to squeeze something out of you. I'm full. Because of Jesus. So I've got a love overflow. I've got an abundance. I've got an excess, which enables me to serve with the right attitude. So you see, the first thing I wanted to say is that Jesus had to reverse things on his disciples. And the second thing I want to say is that when you serve, you got to do it with the right attitude. You need an attitude adjustment. And the last thing I want to say today about washing feet is, and it has to do with this reversal. You see, because Kingdom power is never self-serving power. When you're living for Jesus, you don't function and orient yourself about what's in it for me. And I squirm sometimes when I hear some of the popularized preaching and teaching. It's almost like God is a giant gumball machine. So you put in your faith and you turn it with prayer and out comes a gumball. God's not your ATM. The reason I'm going to do this is so that God going to do that. No, God has already done something. You're not taking the initiative. You're not taking the initiative. I'm going to do this for God so that God will do that for me. You don't operate in a transactional relationship with God. God has already taken the initiative. God has already been gracious. God has already been good. God has already been loving. God has already been kind. So what we do is respond to what God has already done. And when we get really good, we go beyond response. We get to reflex. You know, when you got a reflex, you don't even think about it. When you respond, you got to think about it. But when you get a reflex, you just, the doctor's there, they hit your knee kick. You don't think about it. It's a reflex. God blesses you. My reflex is to be a blessing to somebody. I don't even think about it. I don't calculate it. I don't have to figure it out. It's in my nature to serve because it's a reflex action based on God's goodness in my life. After Jesus washes his disciples' feet, then he tells them, do you understand what I've done? You call me teacher and Lord, and that's right, I am your teacher. I'm your Lord. You said that right. You should also wash one another's feet. I've given you an example that you should do as I have done for you. No servant is greater than his master. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. It's no excuse. So, who will wash the feet? And Jesus says to his disciples, you need to learn to serve one another. But not only one another. You see, the church is not a club where only certain people get in. And we're not a club where only certain people matter. Because the powerless people in this world live at the margins. But nobody is at the margins for God. They're at the margins for us. If they don't live in the right zip code, if they don't work in the right job, or if they don't behave themselves in a certain way, if they don't know how to behave themselves when they come into the worship space. They come in and they didn't know they wasn't supposed to not pop gum. I'm playing with you now. You know, come in popping the gum all loud. And then you looking at them and cutting your eyes. Don't they know they're not supposed to do that? No, they didn't know. That's why they're doing it. But we sometimes have a way of marginalizing people for one reason or another. But nobody is at the margins with God. And that's where we need to serve. We need to find people who need the feet washed. That's what Jesus did. God has proven God's love for us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for the ungodly. Didn't wait till you got your stuff together. When you were all messed up, you all broke up, you all broke down, Jesus was caring for you. So, who will wash the feet? Some of us want to sit comfortably, but Jesus wants you to know that your value in the kingdom is not where you sit. It's how you serve. So there's somebody who is lost in sin, and they need you to serve. There's somebody who's disempowered. They can't make it on their own. They need you to serve. Somebody has been beaten down by the structures, the systems of racism and sexism and classism, and they've just, everywhere they go, they've just been boxed in and they can't make it. They need your service. Ivy Nelson said, you don't know ahead of time what the Lord's going to call you to. But if you're willing, you'll discover who Jesus really is. Jesus is the one who washes the feet. And as a boy growing up in Kentucky, we used to sing on Lord's Supper Sunday. Where he leads me, I will follow. I'll go with him all the way. Will you?